How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of my podcast.
My name's Jethro Staggs, and welcome to The Table Principle, a podcast where you and I have a conversation that creates a connection and builds a community. I hope you enjoy.
Wow, I can't believe we have made it this far. I know it's not that far, episode 2, but still, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone for your incredible love and support and constant messages of encouragement around episode 1 of this podcast. I was definitely not expecting it. It was very overwhelming, and I cannot stress it enough how appreciative I am of all this support. I honestly would not be doing this without you guys, and so the fact that you guys enjoyed the first episode and that you're wanting to be a part of this cool journey together, that excites me so much, and especially because of all the future ideas I have for this podcast that I can't wait to share with you guys in future episodes. I think it's actually just going to be a really cool, fun time where you and I, we just get to hang out. On this episode, we are going to be talking about conversation, about the power of conversation, and why conversation is so important, especially in this modern world where conversation seems to be dying. So, like I said in the first episode, and you can see it on all my branding and on my website, I'm pretty sure on my Instagram and Facebook as well, is that this podcast is all about connection, conversation, and community. And so we're going to start off by talking about conversation, because you first have to have a conversation with someone to build that connection to then create that community. And that's what this whole podcast is that journey. So to start off with conversation, wherever you guys are listening to this from, I want you to actually just take a moment, whether you pause this podcast right now or simply do it at the end of the podcast, is just sit or stand, do it, whatever you're doing, just pause and take note of all the noise around you. Whether it be the neighbor's dog barking, maybe it's traffic, like people honking, road rage, maybe it's the sound of a television in the background, maybe it's the voices of the people around us, maybe you're at work and you can hear other people around you, maybe it's the sound of a microwave beeping. Whatever it is, just sit there and make a list in your mind of all the noises that you can hear around us. And I did this the other day, and it's actually amazing how much noise there is around us and how much noise consumes our world. One thing I've noticed about noise is that it's everywhere. It has become a way of life. It's also the wall that seems to stand between us and our relationship with others. You see, noise, it isn't just about sound. For me, it can seem like a metaphorical representation of the busyness of our lives. And the word busy, that's what I actually want to talk about today on this podcast, and how destructive it actually can be on relationships to be so busy. Busyness is a collective cultural deficit. You see, if you tell someone you're busy, it's like saying, hey, I'm talking to you, but I'm not really there. And for me, I don't want to feel like an interruption or another thing on someone's to-do list. Like, I want someone to actually want to talk to me and want to actually put in the effort to have a conversation with me, because there's no point in trying to have a conversation with someone that doesn't actually want to be there. I think so many of us use the word busy as a way to simply try and boost our popularity status, try and make others think that we're actually more popular than we are simply because we're busy. But I believe that's a myth, and I don't think it's true. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're actually popular. I think we need to actually take ownership in the way that we have conversations with one another, especially in a modern world where all we do is text each other. Sometimes we don't even call people. Simply we have a conversation through screens, and there's only so much depth that you can have via a screen. So I think we actually need to realize that there's a greater power in having conversations with people outside of a screen, having conversations with the people around us. I think if we stopped using the word busy as an excuse for not being present in the moment with someone, we would discover that the benefits of communication and conversation can assist in the settling of all that has transpired throughout the day. So I want to just say a couple things about conversations and what it actually means to have a conversation, and how we can have better, meaningful, and intentional conversations in our lives. You see, a conversation requires a balance between talking and listening. One thing I know that I do, and that I'm trying to get a lot better at this, and I'm actually reading a book about it, is that when you're having a conversation with someone and they're talking, you need to stop thinking about what you're going to be having for dinner that night, or maybe what you're going to be having for lunch, or even stop trying to think about what you're going to say next, or maybe the next question to ask them, because then you're actually not listening to what they have to say. And I think it's so important in having a conversation, you need to be actively listening. So one thing I've learned is to not multitask while having a conversation. If you're sitting there while checking social media maybe and someone else is having a conversation with you, that's not a conversation. It's not going to work. You need to be in the moment and you need to be paying attention properly. Like, and even if you put your phone down, that you still may be multitasking, like I said before, about having those conversations in your mind while the other person is talking. You need to be actively listening. And I firmly believe that if we get better at conversations, you just watch the quality of your relationships just like grow. And I believe that without a doubt, and you can prove me wrong, but that is definitely what I believe. And if you don't want to be in a conversation, then simply get out of it, because no one wants you to be half in and half out. I think so many of us fake conversations with people just because maybe we feel bad or something like that. And yes, to an extent, that maybe, of course, there's going to be people that you don't want to have a conversation with, but maybe you actually have to. But still, in those moments, choose to have a conversation with them, because I think I've learned that in the conversations that I don't actually want to have with someone, they seem to be the best conversations I've had. Whether it's actually someone coming up to me on the street and having a conversation with me, and I'm like, no, I'm in my own little world right now, please don't talk to me. But you end up finding out that having a conversation with them opens up so many opportunities. And I touched on that in the first episode about how by simply saying hello to someone or talking to someone outside of your little circle, that so many opportunities will arise from that. And I think that's why we need to get better at conversations and getting better at having conversations outside of our screens and outside of our busy worlds, to then better those relationships, to create new relationships. Conversation is step one of this journey of connection, conversation, and community. I know it is number two when I say connection, conversation, community, but it is actually the first one. I've just always said connection, conversation, community. It sounds better. So if you're wondering why I said connection, conversation, community, and not conversation, connection, community, I've always just said connection, conversation, community. So I'm really sorry about that. But you guys can get used to it. Because if we want to build a connection with someone, to then build that community, we really need to master the art of having a conversation. One thing I'm trying to get better at, and I've met someone who does this really well, and his name is Ryan Bowles. So Ryan, if you're listening to this, hello. He is fantastic at not asking yes, no questions, but instead asking open-ended questions. I was just away with him for 3 weeks, so over the course of spending like 22 days together, I watched the way he has conversations with people. We went to a conference and we met so many people, so many new people. And just one thing I noticed he does with the open-ended questions is he goes and asks someone why. He asks someone, so why do you do that? Why do you do that in your business? Why are you studying that? Why did you choose to create your business? He just takes it that one step further, and that's something I really admire, and that's something that I want to incorporate into my life, and I think everyone should, is that we need to get better at asking open-ended questions, being able to go deeper with people, because like I said before, we need to have better conversations that go deeper than just on a screen. So if you're having trouble with having conversations with someone, maybe try and think about whether you're actually just asking them yes, no questions. If you go ahead and ask someone, wow, were you terrified by that? All they'll think about is the word terrified, and they'll just say yes or no. But if you go, how did that make you feel? That way it's actually giving them an opportunity to pause and think about it for a second before speaking, because it's not just a simple straight yes, no. They actually have time to think about, okay, how did this make me feel? And it just opens their mind and opens up the conversation so much more. And I really want to encourage you this week, when you're having a conversation with someone, actually listen to them. Don't be thinking about what you're having for dinner. Don't be thinking about the assignment that's due. actually sit down and actively listen to what they have to say. Because when you're talking to them, you're hoping that they're giving you all the attention that they possibly can. But if you're not doing that back to them, then like, what's the point in the conversation? And so I want to encourage you to when you're having a conversation with someone, just simply sit down, put your phone away, focus your mind, focus your ears onto them, and listen to what they actually have to say. And start trying to ask open-ended questions that will cause the conversation to go simply another level deeper, whether that's asking them why or how. Like, think about like back in school when you learn about who, what, why, when, how. Think of those, like, is it 5 things? And simply, just think about how can I use that in this conversation? And then just do that. And just watch those conversations in your life go that one step deeper. And then hopefully from there, on like the next episode, we're going to be talking about connection, and the one after that we'll talk about community. But hopefully simply by doing those things, you'll watch a deeper connection being formed with those people. And I also encourage you to take a step out of the way and have conversations with people that you don't know, and have conversations with people outside of your normal little circle. I'm probably going to encourage you to do that on every single episode, but I think there's just so much power in it, and like I've mentioned heaps before, there's just so much opportunity in it. Well, that is pretty much the second episode done. Like I said at the beginning, I thank you guys so much for all your constant encouragement and support. If this episode really stood out to you, and if you thought about someone that you would love to share this with, definitely make sure to share it around. The bigger we can grow this community, the better, especially leading up to episode 4. When I talk about community, I'm going to be launching this cool new idea with that. So it'd be fantastic to have as many people on board now as possible, so then this thing can absolutely skyrocket and everyone can be on the journey together. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. You know what to do. Let me know if you like this. Drop a comment below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Thank you so much for listening to the second episode of my brand new podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to drop a comment below. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. And remember, you can add me on Facebook or follow me on Instagram. I would love to get connected with you.